What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Wefunk Nation, the Wefunk International podcast. And we're here on episode 4. And we have a special guest here, Mr. Lige Curry. Make some noise.
Welcome, Lige. Welcome. Let's go.
What up, everybody?
Welcome to the pod. You're the first guest we've had on Wefunk Pod.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
First time.
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored to be a part. You know, I love my Justin. You know, he's the shit.
Yeah, you were my first. I was like, once we started this podcast, I was like, Lige he's always helping out with videos and pro. Like, we got to get Lige on here.
This is the best way to start. And so we're starting. One thing that we got going on is Justin is of the grandson generation. So whatever that generation of, dealing with R&B and everything around, like, entertainment, he's new. We're kind of like seasoned, and we're like seasoned from on the other side of the rope in concerts. Wouldn't you say, Lige?
Yeah, we the old guys in the game now. We was young like Justin at one point, but then I don't know, time just passed by so quickly. You know, now we're the senior citizens and shit.
I know. I met you when I was 20.
Okay, I was 21.
Yeah.
22 or something.
So you guys are a year apart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, probably 2 years or something like that, maybe. I don't know. I was born in 57. I think Clip was born in 56.
58.
I mean, 58.
You're old.
58.
Yeah, you're old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Like, I met Lige. Check this out, Justin. I met Lige. I was coming outside of, like, the hotel in Chicago. This place called McCormick Inn. And I went out, I don't know, to probably smoke a joint. I don't know what it was. But when I went out, this taxi pulls up. And you come out the thing, you like, I'm here now, and where's my cousin? Boom. Yeah. And like, who's this dude? And like within probably 6 months, we was all rolling together, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was quick, I mean, quicker than I thought it would be. I know that
funny.
At that time, we talking about in the late 70s, and it was a different time back then, we were young. P-Funk was like rolling. They was headlining and they was landing the mothership and all kind of stuff, and so it was one of those times, it was for me, I felt as though, because I was just coming out, I didn't finish college, number one. I was going to school, but I was just still, Michael Hampton is my first cousin, guitar player, lead guitar for P-Funk, and he had been in the band since 74. And whatever I tried to do, it just, me and him was so tight. We're like brothers almost. So it's like, I'm trying to find somebody or something to get involved with, but it was always in the back of my mind that Mike was out there doing this thing that we just looked at as just amazing to be that young doing it, And I always thought like, damn, if he could do it, I know I could fucking do it, but it wasn't that easy, But at the same time, like Clip said, when I did meet Clip, I was pretty much in, but not all the way in. We were part of this thing that, Ron Brimbry, rest in peace, he was part of management. He's like, you guys were part of the I'll Do It crowd or I'll Do It crew. And that meant that whatever had to be done, Clip and I would say, I'll do it,
Yeah.
And, that's how we pretty much started. We started on staff and management side of the thing before we Well, Clip hit the stage before I did, but he was still involved in dealing with managerial things and
With the
yeah, we was the
briefcase thing.
briefcase. I had this Anvil briefcase. Yeah, I know Clip had one, and we would do whatever that was asked of us to do. From going to pick up the money at the box office to dealing with security issues, helping run records, helping drive people around, just whatever we could do to make ourselves, uh, you know, for be more involved in the whole organization and what it was.
And it was good because like a lot of people that rode in it didn't even know how it run. Like you got
Yeah,
the like the best kind of way to get in there is to get in there and see it from the back end anyway.
yeah,
Like so if you're accommodating everything that's happening in the back, you make sure that everything's cool. You start to understand why that even exists.
right, right.
Why do you need this caterer? Okay, you need this caterer because we got a few divas over here and they want it right now, whatever it is they want.
Yeah,
And there's people think that that's like some little peasant job, but that's like so much a part of like that whole making a show happen.
yeah,
And we were like making it happen. And before you know it, we were like singing
right.
and we were playing.
Yeah,
And, it all started to make sense. To the point that almost like the people that we didn't replace them, but we came after them. They had learned what they learned in the game, and some learned a lot and took it away with them. But our thing was like the end of the '70s, and it was kind of like the new game was coming. You know, at that time, like we would we was just young enough that when everybody was trying to figure out what new wave was and what punk rock was and what rock and roll was, and we didn't even have hip hop wasn't even there yet. So we we started to see that, and then we get to be about 23, 25, and this one record that worked so well, Sugar Hill, it became and they don't even get counted in as like hip hop. Nobody was running around with that thing, you know. Where we've been kind of useful in the industry is that we had an audience that was still riding that mothership, and rap had none of that, and they had no venue. So for years and years and years, we've always played number two. We always like simmered
yeah,
because always it's gonna be like this new thing is gonna always happen, and it's gonna be like, oh, you guys used to be old school. No, we're here. So if you guys want to play, because we got 20,000 people watching anyway, whether you're here or not. But we became useful as that band that we could sell out a place and present the new rap artists didn't have like an audience like that. Uh, Curtis Blow, uh, that was kind of like the first star, you know.
yeah.
But I remember back in the day, uh, you remember we played Apollo for a long time. Then we used to go down to this place called the Cotton Club,
Oh
and
yeah,
they was featuring like this one guy who knew how to mix a record, foo 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 foo, and it was something to brag about. Like you're seeing something we've never seen before. Look at this guy. I forget who he was, but you paid the high end ticket to get into the Cotton Club, and you watched this guy spin the wheels the way he was doing. That still we didn't have the term hip hop, but I mean, you and I, we got in the game. It's like even Bob Marley, like the whole reggae thing. Like we was already in our thing when like reggae was showing. We was like, yeah, what's that? Because we were on our
nice.
same mission. Like hip hop didn't get in the way of our mission. Reggae didn't get in the way of our mission. Matter of fact, we've been lucky because
you guys have stayed relevant throughout so many generations, like of music, and so much evolving. Like people are still going to P-Funk shows. P-Funk is still on the radio. Like there's so many bands that can't tour, can't go to the Essence Fest anymore. Like you don't see a lot of the old bands anymore because of just their time is over. You guys found the
How
way.
about this though, Lodge? Do you ever think about like all these artists that's been out there? Like we've been around to see like artists come and go, come and go. We've seen their whole career. The Beatles only last 10 years. You and I have been working together for 47.
Right.
Okay, there's the difference. So so
we've kept the oil in the machine. I like to think, like a lot of the guys that we're standing on the shoulders of, they wasn't even in the band, this particular Parliament-Funkadelic, as long as we have been. Like Billy Bass Nelson, for an example, rest in peace. He did a lot of work in the very beginning. He's from where they all grew up, but he took off really early when they started rolling and doing things on the road, But like I said, they put in so much work early on, but they were gone. Eddie Hazel was always going and coming. There's a lot of them that, that just didn't stay like Clip and I did. We kind of became consistent with just going out on the road and being in the studio, being available, I think was me and Clip's best asset, because, I used to live in Detroit too. So, we all kind of would be at the studio if it was, because everybody, the reason why the records are so vast with different people, because everybody, depending on the project, it would be these people in Detroit now, or these people, it would never be the same core of people all the time,
Right.
And I think Clip and I were probably some of the main fixtures around there. If you needed vocals, if you needed whatever, we was right there to help out, I missed Detroit when I left too, because, that studio thing kind of left, and and it wasn't like Motown moved to California, but, George was still there, so he created work for a lot of people that, was still around, in the Detroit area. Because, at one point, I remember George having like 3 or 4 studios going at one time,
Yeah, out to the city, yeah.
Yeah, and it would be different projects going on all the time. So that kind of, I don't know, I don't even know if Berry Gordy and them was like that, doing it like that. But I'm proud of the fact that we came up the way we came up, Clip, because I wouldn't change nothing, man, because, like you said earlier, starting out on the staff and management gave us an insight on how behind the scenes work.
Yeah.
People will always see it from the front, but the behind the scenes is probably the most important. That's why I always say thank you to, like, if we're doing like union gigs and the crew, I don't know these guys from Adam, but after a show, I'll always try to say thank you and appreciate your time and effort, because they come in way before we do, and they're the last ones to leave. So I know that takes a hell of an effort, and a mindset to do things like that. So I'm always gracious and thankful for all of those kind of guys, because I did it too,
Yeah.
at one point, so yeah, man.
So when you guys were I know, Lodge, you started out as a vocalist. Were you still playing bass, like practicing bass while you were a vocalist, or was that kind of something you learned as?
I started out, me and Mike both, we started out we did a lot of instrumentals. I got with this one band who actually introduced us to George and Parliament-Funkadelic, and this one guy, he's the leader of the band. His name was Ed Sparks, and on the east side of Cleveland. And I basically, you know, he bought me my first bass, my first real bass. My mother bought me my first bass right after Michael, about a year or so after Michael got his guitar. I begged my mom to get me a guitar, and I got a guitar first. But then Michael was just soaring so fast, you know. He taking lessons, and we had different groups in the city in our neighborhood, but we eventually came together. Michael was probably the main reason why I play bass, because he was like, "Cuz, why don't you get a bass, and then we could start a group." And so I went and traded my guitar in for a bass, and I just started playing bass after that point. I started singing a little bit later. Like after I got in this band called the Electric Sparks, it was Ed Sparks' girlfriend was going to Spelman University, and she majored in choral and choir and all of that. So she heard me sing one day, and she's like, "You got a beautiful voice. Why don't you start singing?" And I was like, "I'm already playing. I mean, I thought that was enough." And she was like, "No, no, 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 no." Her name was Avis Graves. I still contact her today on social media. Thank God for social media.
Yeah, about that.
And because she still gets up with me. She still called me Young Lige. That's what she used to call me when we were coming up. And I started singing, you know, and she said, "Your blend is really good. You know, I mean, you should really think about it." But the whole thing with me was singing and playing, you know, and, you know, I remember when I was younger, you know, I used to go to concerts. I remember going to see Larry Graham, and he just blew my mind because he could sing and play so well and effortlessly.
That's so much harder
It
than it
really
really
is.
seems. Like I practice bass a little bit, so but even just like songs I know off the top
Yeah.
of my head, I can't play that, and I'm not that good, but I can't play and sing because then I can't focus on the rhythm I'm playing or focus on the notes I'm playing, and now I'm like looking down at my guitar trying to figure out the words, and that is so much harder than you really think it
Yeah,
is. Like
it is, man.
people have to really
I
practice for
mean,
that.
I
Like this
played
is
guitar, you know, first, but, you know, for guitar, you know, it's more of a strumming thing, you know, so you
You
can
can get away
sing
with
and strum in rhythm,
right.
you know, but bass is single notes. So, you know, you really have to separate that whole thing with the voice, you know. But I tell you, when she told me that she was, you know, Avis, that is, I was basically, I said to myself, when I seen Larry, I said, and it was Jermaine Jackson too. He got me too.
Yeah.
So it was a few of them that got me that was able to sing and play. And I was like, you know what? This is going to take some practice. So I used to run my mother crazy, you know, because the one thing too that was deep too, because before the whole singing and playing, to be able to play without looking at the fretboard, like down at the fretboard, down at the fretboard. And I practiced not looking at my fretboard for like years, you know, before I could become comfortable with just looking forward. And when you're entertaining, you find out like you can't be looking at your fretboard all the time. People looking at you, you know, and you want to be looking forward. So with just playing bass, I would get in the mirror and I would practice and practice and practice that. And eventually and when I seen P-Funk, Gary Scheider blew my mind because he could sing and play too.
Yeah.
It was guitar, but he was singing these lead lines and, you know, Cosmic Slop, and I was like blown away, you know. So I said, I want to step my game up, you know. And Bootsy, same thing. Bootsy got a thing like talking and playing bass is really
Yeah,
hard,
because he
you
was,
know, just having a conversation while you're
in
playing, you know.
reality, some
So
kind of way, he was rapping before rapping.
yeah,
Because he
yeah,
wasn't
it's
singing,
kind
he
of
was
that.
rapping, he was just talking, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that captivated me, and I wanted that more than anything, you know. But it took practice, man. I ain't gonna even lie about that. That ain't something that I just picked up the bass and started singing and playing. No, that took a lot of years of practice, and I still to this day I still practice that. And even with 420, like Clip is, you know, I sometimes I slack off and Clip will look around and say, "Come on, man, get in the mic," you know. So I try to like do as much as I can. It ain't the easiest thing. I know Justin, you play bass too, but just know that it's going to take a lot of practice and dedication, and don't get frustrated with yourself because you know it'll come. Trust me, it came for me. It'll come for anybody.
Yeah, but you also have like a saying that either you got it,
Oh
either you
yeah,
got it, because that's a, you know,
yeah. Either
you
that's
what
true too. You know, either you have it or you
you
don't. One of the hardest songs for me to play and sing with P Funk was Cosmic Slop, um, because you know, when I came into the band, I was playing Cosmic Slop wrong, and
said.
it was a long time before Cordell Boogie Matson, who was on the record, he finally broke it to me like, you know, all of y'all playing it wrong, you know. And I was like, what do you mean? You know, because we were doing the song, you know what I mean? But he was like, well, that ain't the way I did it on the record. And I said, well, how did you do it? And he showed me, you know, because I was playing like for musicians that might know is in F sharp. I was going from F sharp to A, and it's do 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 on the neck. But then Boogie was like, if you know your strings or whatever, it's an EADG for bass. And then the A is right up under the E. And he's like, I opened up the A string, which means when he played on the F sharp, the next string was A, or F sharp on the E string, and then the next string is A. So he would hit down on the F sharp and boom, open the A up, boom, ba, which gave it a whole bigger sound. And I was like, damn, okay, that's what you did. And he was like, yeah, I wanted to tell you a long time ago, but I just decided, to tell you now. And they were really deep about teaching people. Like Boogie say, I'll teach you, but I won't teach him.
Yeah, they were
You
like
know, so
that's another thing, because like you were privy to like all the bass players telling you their
yeah,
they're showing you like the real, you want you
yeah,
you no longer had to skim because you had all the information from the mugs that
yeah. From the I was
tasted.
we both were blessed in that Clip.
Exactly,
You know,
exactly.
I mean,
That's one of the things
say it again.
that's hard about learning bass. That's one of the things I feel like that's hard about learning bass is I try to play tabs and online stuff, but like half of that stuff is not actually how they played it. Like that's not, you could look at all the tabs in the world, but like it maybe sounds like how they played it, but half of the time it's like that's not like some of the stuff that I try to learn and I'm like, I can't learn this. And I look it up and it's played on a synthesizer bass,
Oh
Or
yeah,
like
yeah,
there's so many other, or maybe I learned it from my first position, but really they went down to the fifth position,
exactly.
like stuff like that. And it's like I'm learning the song and then actually playing it. And Grandpa Cliff tells me like you shouldn't really be looking at the tab, more so learning how it sounds and then trying to figure it out from there.
Yeah,
Because he likes to say like, what happens when you got to improvise? What happens when the band takes a different direction?
yeah,
You only know how to play these tab chords, but
yeah,
stuff. It's good that you had like the actual.
Look, I give it to you like this. We just did a gig, and our last gig, the people that we're doing it with, you know, we're going to rehearse us into no end. And I started to realize that like the one person who's probably going to be the most clueless is the person that we're working for. So I had to immediately like say to them, like, and this is not even bragging, but we come from, first of all, we come from working behind people who for a career is throwing us off the mark. And
Right.
so we have a whole career of, oh yeah, you put in like a stinky note, we get ready to make that, turn that into butter. So as a, and we've been those kind of, we've been, we've been, to me, we just know how to like make a hot mess roll out like you know, like butter to me, you know.
Yeah.
And most people don't know how to improvise or know how to catch that, you know.
Yeah.
And but when you had like a lot of practice, like you had George who's like is going to throw a wrench in the thing, you know. I was watching my man; he was counting Lige, counting on the paper,
Yeah.
and George ran out there and stayed for like 3 stanzas extra.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like don't know where to go, and I go, this looks like a job for Funkadelic right here. This is where we're gonna make. He's gonna look real cool. He's gonna be able to take the bow, but he's not even gonna know why. But we get this. We get this.
Right.
Practice at that, and most musicians don't get that because they either pay too much attention on getting it right, and this is what we're playing, and only.
Yeah.
But you've seen people step in front of Funkadelic, man, who they got the chops, but they never knew that they could step into like a hurricane like this and
Right.
and be relevant in it. I've seen a lot of mugs step back from us like, oh shoot, I know I was good, but I don't know what to do with this,
Right.
you,
Right.
the force. I used to love Bernie used to say the thrust
Right.
on
Right.
how we do our thing is a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Bernie was very helpful in a lot of different ways. He used to tell me when I first got in the band, I had been listening to Return to Forever, all of that. I guess you guys have your Thundercats. I had my Stanley Clark and all of those guys back then. And I was trying to play so much, and he's like, hold it, Baba, like it ain't about all of that. It's about the feel. And it took me several years to figure out the feel, what that meant, how to apply it, and how to use it uh, in other, places and stuff where you do your music too.
right.
And I was just blown away by the whole feel, the vibe. And Funkadelic is probably 95% feel, because they were the ones, they were breaking all the rules, like everything I learned in theory when I was going to college is like, it didn't even apply to P-Funk when I got with them. As far as like the way that they wrote from feel, and feeling was motivating them. It wouldn't be like today when you listen to some of the songs, most people write and they write in even bars, 8, 12, 16, or whatever. Well, Funkadelic, they might change like on the 13th bar or the ninth bar or
Right.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Me and Blackbird McKnight used to talk about that all the time, and he said that's what basically made this band different from everybody else. They didn't care about that kind of stuff. So, and it worked, you know what I mean? Music now today is still, like you just said, Justin, is still going on strong. It's still on the radio. you know. So
It's actually funny, like when I walked into school, like my very first day of this, I moved to Long Beach 2 years ago. My very first day at the school, I'm walking up to the school and they have Flashlight playing on the speaker. And like, it's so crazy. Like, I'm going to school with 3,000 kids and nobody knows that this is literally my grandpa. Like, this is the band I grew up going to see. Like, I didn't go to my first concert other than P Funk until literally last year, 2025.
oh
Every other
wow.
concert I've been to, it was all P Funk or like the Fool in Love Festival. I got to go to that, and I just talked about this earlier. Like all the shows I went to, it's mostly because of P Funk. You know, like up until this year, I never paid or just went to a show that wasn't P Funk, and it's crazy because like you guys are. That song is what 50 something years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still playing on the radio, and probably kids probably don't know what Atomic Dog is or what Flashlight is, but I know if you play that song, oh, I've heard that on the radio, or my mom's played that, or my dad's played that, and it's
How about this? How about this one? When that song was out, your mother was 2 years old.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's
And I remember her when
that's
she was 2
crazy.
years old too.
Oh, she loves some Uncle Lige. She loves some Uncle Lige and Uncle Blackbird.
Yeah. I remember her when she was the cutest little baby, boy, I swear. But she was just bubbling with joy. Crystal was just like, I guess it was like Clip got a bunch of kids, but I remember Crystal, she kind of did some road time too, like, at the baby's age,
Yeah, she was raised on
That's
the
what I'm
road.
saying, so she was out there with us
Yeah.
doing the thing,
I can kind of
That's why she
understand.
seems unconcerned about it
That's what I
now.
was gonna say. I can kind of see now why when you come, it's like, oh, he's here, but I
Yeah, my kids got the beat down. They got the
see.
road
I think
under them.
I think I like it so much because I only went 2 times a year. Like I always waited for that September, that January, February when you guys came, because also that's the only time I saw you because you've been living in New York since I was born. So it's like
Right.
in September, February when you guys did come, I was like, oh, my grandpa's here. And then I was seeing you at a concert getting snacks backstage, and like
Right.
it was, it wasn't really like I've never
It was an
not
event.
wanted to. Yeah,
It was a family event.
it wasn't like, oh, my grandpa's here, we're going to Funkadelic. Like, oh my God, my grandpa's here, let's go to Funkadelic. Like,
Yeah.
even now, like I still like, especially now that I'm working for you and I'm seeing how it's like how you guys really like this is Funkadelic. Like, not a lot of people. Not even a lot of people even get the chance to go to a concert. Like I know people that haven't been to a concert and they're my same age, right?
Yeah.
And I grew up in that environment and I got to see Funkadelic. Get this. I didn't even know until 2 years ago what 420 Funk Mob was.
Oh.
I didn't know the P Funk All Stars. I didn't know Cacophonic. He literally the Fool in Love Festival, right? This is crazy, I know. In August of what, 2024 was that?
Yeah.
My grandpa came over after the show. He stayed over the house, right? And one morning, I think it was like a Sunday or Saturday, I was playing music, my oldies playlist like I usually do, and Funkadelic came on, right? And he goes, I have a band, right? And I was like, Funkadelic, yeah, obviously you've been doing, I know you have a band. He was like, no, I have multiple bands. And then he showed me Prescription for Miss America. And I'm like, wait, you can actually like sing. Like you got vocal. Like this was less than 3 years ago. I was like, you can actually sing. This is you. Like, I think it was Alabama. Did you show me Alabama first, or I don't know what song it was, but I was like, you actually have vocal. Like this is. I didn't know. I couldn't even believe my grandpa was singing. Like, and then what?
That's funny.
We went to Cacophonic, right? We went to Cacophonic and make it, and then not even a year later, I went over to my grandma's house. Right, this is now I started doing the social media, and she goes, "You heard Cacophonic, like make it for you," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" This is less than 2 years ago. It's not even less than a year ago because I just started doing the social media for you September 2024. So we're not even at
Yeah.
2 years yet, right? And about I think it was May or something. I go to my grandma's house and he's like, "Make it for you," and then I listen to it. I'm like, "There's no way this is my grandpa's voice." Like, I always hear the turn the roof off, turn the roof off, turn the roof, And so this is what I'm listening for now.
That's the other thing. See, with us, one thing that we came from is like making records, and then it really didn't. A lot of voicings that we've done, it didn't even matter if it was our own voice. It was a kind of voice. Because when you're making records in the day, you just need that kind of voice to be on a record. So after a while, you just start learn how to sing like that kind of voice goes good on this kind of part. That I'm gonna sing low on this kind of part. And we kind of come through like, first of all, we had like a nonstop studio budget. So everybody who had an idea, there was 20 of us to figure out how to make that idea work. My first one with you, Lodge, was gotta be the freak of the week. Ooh, from Uncle Jam. Like it was the last song that we did for the album, and we were headed. Matter of fact, we were headed to Apollo, and our opening act was going to be this new group that rap over records, and we was busting out the freak of the week that that day, that the night before.
studio Studio work can do so much, but I mean, there's like, I'm not. There's people background vocals that like you never know where they come from, right? But there's males doing female voices on studio records because of the production and, like you said, just
Oh yeah,
learning how
oh
to
yeah,
sing in that voice, in that tone. Like, you really never know who made the
exactly.
song until you figure out who made the song, because there's
But we
so
come
many
from a
different
thing too where
ways. And
like those kinds of things didn't even matter. Like we didn't even talk about that in the '70s. You, you know, you wanted your name to be on the album cover so you could prove that you were there. Other than that, like we didn't dig deep. We had 3 channels on TV. We didn't have no phones to call each other. We couldn't take a picture of none of this stuff. The game was pinball. That was about as good as it got at that time. And the prize was to have these records that sold for anywhere from 45 cents to 98 cents, and you had to sell 1 million of those or 2 million to even make $1 million for the company, not even for yourself. So this is pre all of that, which made us the lucky ones to be able to just be in the business uh, to the point that where by the time hip hop came, the last living things that they had to work with was our records, vinyl records. Vinyl records.
yeah, and vinyl records is coming back. Like, I'm pretty sure. I think it was like over 1 billion in revenue in vinyls. Like, there people are starting to collect. I've actually bought
Uh,
3 vinyls this year for people, and I've never
yeah, I'm
even
hoping to.
thought about a vinyl
Yeah, I'm
until
hoping to
last
soon
year. But
do
vinyls are coming back.
my records in vinyl, because
Definitely.
have you ever really? Do you know what? Oh, what's a disc? It's an old man question. What's a disc?
So is it a CD, right? Well, compact disc obviously is a CD, but other than that, I don't know.
How
A
about this one?
CD. That's my
Back in
only
the
thought of the
day, you
disc.
would need to play your records. You make sure you had a good disc. That disc might cost you 2 cents or 5 cents. The piece of plastic. It went around the hook when you put the record on, and it kept your record steady so that it went around. That's the disc. Yeah, the actual disc was like you put that in between your 45 because your 33 and the third record, your albums, they had a little hole. But in your 45s was a big round hole. So you had this disc that went in between it so that it would be flush on the record player, you know. Yeah.
That's funny. That
That's
I never even. Yeah, that's I never even knew. Like this is learning. This is
yeah.
why we do this.
Yeah. And uh subject wise, Lodge has a new record coming soon. I've heard it. Most people haven't heard it. But I'm gonna tell you, Elijah, I love and live with that record. I think it's really, really good. These days, it seems like we've modernized like beats and like we've gotten like new equipment, Justin, that has taken us to like away from the actual soul of it all. And I like that we still have like places in the world where people are still listen to gospel music the same way, traditional way. They listen to soul the traditional way, and they're not running after the brand new aesthetic, which can suck up like 2 3 years of our whole culture. To me, you know what I mean? Like if everybody's doing the same thing for like the same time for like years, you don't really hear no true expression of like soul music. And I think soul music is nice when I listen to your thing. Is like, ah, okay, now I know that actually uh, folk around the world can get into this. They're not stuck on having to listen to like only just the new Kanye song or like if and not to take anything from Kanye because when Kanye had his time, but he's just one example of like when you can be that thing. You know, there's a lot of stars out there they become that thing, and they become a sound that after a while they remove from their sound. I was like, it's funny to me, um, Snoop Dogg. Okay, Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg for years has been playing the whole thing of being Snoop Dogg, of being agreeable in all these forms of like promoting things and being all about hip hop the way he does it. But at the end of the day, he likes a good dramatics record. He's listening to LJ sing, and that's what he truly loves. You know what I mean? It's, after people get through playing like the whole whatever the industry wants you to play, and you find out what's really being played in their ear when ain't nobody listening or watching, they're listening to real soul. So my deal is like, let's make sure that uh, we keep the soul in the whole matter of like the musical entertainment. You know, um, that's just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, definitely. Um, everybody, that's episode 4 of Wefunk
And Lige, you got to
International.
come
We
back
got
because
Mr.
I
Lige
enjoy
Curry,
Lige.
first guest. Oh yeah, Lige is insightful.
With a chord.
Yep.
Wefunk Nation, baby.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming. Yeah, when we started this, I was like, I definitely gotta get Lodge on here no matter what. You were like the first thought. Like we talked about guests, and I was, let's get Lodge. Like,
yeah, let's start on the good
but
foot.
thank you for coming on.
All right.
Episode 4. All righty. Wefunk International.